MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's send it to Arizona. Gamblou from Gamblou.com hops up and in. Lou, it's always a pleasure, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Gabriel. Always a pleasure to join you and MMA Meltdown.
Well, it's great to have some mixed martial arts to break down and to bet on this week following the fight. I mean, the crime of the century. Yet, as I stated off the top, the fight was pretty much everything that I expected it to be. You're an old school boxing guy that turned his back on boxing to get into mixed martial arts because of the overall sleaze factor of the boxing scene. What was your take on people's shock that Floyd Mayweather isn't Chris Lieben and doesn't stand in the middle of the ring and bang?
Well, clearly a lot of the people that were drawn to the fight, I think the younger segment that were drawn to these fights have experienced some UFC where actual fighters fight. And I'm not trying to pick on Floyd. They just didn't do their research. Floyd Mayweather is a lot of things, but one thing he is in the ring is a counterpuncher. And he gets by being slick, by moving, by not getting hit, and by counterpunching. So for that to come as a surprise to some, they just didn't do their research. You've given a good synopsis of my feelings of boxing. I didn't buy the fight, nor did I watch it.
And it's interesting because, people are saying, oh, boxing's dead because of that one event. And clearly, that's not true. But without being stated, this card this week, it's a nice opportunity for the UFC to step up because it's going to be the first exposure of the UFC since the Mayweather fight. And it's on free television, so people will be clicking around on a late night Saturday night. And, oh, this is free. And, oh, this is really entertaining. And I don't really see how Miocic and Mark Hunt can't be an entertaining fight.
I couldn't agree more with that. I see a handful of fights on here that are going to be must watch and highly competitive with guys that are going to go out and try and earn bonuses.
So, Mark Hunt is a clear fan favorite. We're talking about a guy with a 10-9 record that fought for a championship because the heavyweight division is kind of thin, and as well because he's extremely popular. Meanwhile, Stipe here, man, this kid, you go to war with JDS for 5 rounds trading blows with this guy. He didn't win the fight, but he earned a ton of respect. It's funny how that can work in a fight game, especially in mixed martial arts, where you can gain more respect in a loss than a win sometimes. And you've got to be impressed with what he did against JDS, even though he lost that fight. We know he has a chin. He's eaten a ton of shots. He's fought in Roy Nelson. He's fought in JDS. He's a hell of an athlete, Golden Gloves boxer, champion, wrestler as well. This is an intriguing fight. And, it seems like Miocic's just sort of knocking on the door. There's not a ton of dudes to be fighting for a championship. He's got an opportunity to really make a name for himself this Saturday.
He absolutely does. He did look great. That Miocic JDS fight was in Phoenix, and I had prime seats and, was very close to that action, enjoyed the heck out of that fight. Also, we have to understand JDS, really, he was a little younger, but he battered Hunt. He provided Hunt with one of his more brutal losses. And Miocic is a similar kind of fighter. I mean, he's going to sport 6-7 inches of height on Hunt. He's 9 years the younger man and has a tremendous reach advantage. All that being said, Hunt has TNT in his hand. So if Stipe gets too cute and thinks he's going to stand the full 5 rounds with Hunt, he could get surprised.
What do you think about the number? Do you think it's a fair number at minus 220?
I don't think it's a fair number now. Stipe opened 160. I was a little asleep at the wheel. We caught him minus 180. And I think that at 2-1 or less, he's a fair play. But boy, you start to get to minus 225. That's I'm at 180, 225. That's almost 50 cents. I know people may not understand how I equate fighting with numbers like that, but we're value hunters, and at 225 or higher, it's going to be hard to take Miocic. In fact, you get Hunt to bet $1 and win $2 with the kind of TNT he has in his hands, the kind of desperation he's going to be fighting with at 41 years of age, and oh, by the way, he's in front of his hometown people. This is not a walk in the park for Stipe.
No, it isn't. And, you know, you raise good points there. And whenever you're talking about a heavyweight fight as well, you generally don't want to lay a price in a heavyweight division. It's like NASCAR with the restrictor plates. Anything can happen. You know, and you don't, if you can get plus money on something, if you can talk yourself into it, you do it. This is really an intriguing fight. It's a real crossroads fight. As you stated, Hunt's 41 years old. Cain Velasquez is coming back, I guess, supposedly. But somebody's got to fight the winner of Verdum and Velasquez in the future. I think Miocic finds a way to get it done here. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the travel. Because people, and we've got a lot of these instances here. The next fight here, we'll get to Tavares Whittaker. It's another road trip, hometown guy, home country guy, and the same thing with Vick and Matthews as well. But it's not the atmosphere in the arena, but it's more so, you know, the jet lag, the flight, food. You know, are people getting hydrated after the fact? It's all the little things, and some guys can handle travel better than others, Lou. But I think a lot of fans sort of think it's the arena or it's the fans or whatever. You know, it's like basketball or a baseball team. It's not the environment. It's the road trip itself that wears teams down.
Those are unbelievably astute points. Sure, you know, in Brazil, sometimes you'll get hot, humid type environments in the arena. But you're right. There's jet lag. That's a 25-hour flight to Australia. The food is different. More importantly, after flying, you get bloated. The weight cuts start to come into consideration. So there are tremendous intricacies that we who study these fights are aware of that many that are just tuning in to watch two guys brawl have to be aware of as well.
Yeah, it's like Nick Diaz said. I remember people were like, what's he talking about? When he said he doesn't like to fly into a city before a fight, like 4 days before the fight. He wants to get there earlier because of germs on the plane. And it's a great point, as you stated. It's all about the little things, man, the attention to detail. So Tavares and Whittaker, you know, they both have very, nearly identical records, 13-4 and 13-3. But there's a big difference in the level of competition and the caliber of fighters that they've faced. In that Tavares has fought in a lot of tough dudes, and Whittaker, not so much. You know, this is an intriguing matchup as well here, though.
I couldn't agree more, and I see it very similarly to you. Whittaker's probably going to be a little the faster guy. He's got some heavier hands. However, Tavares, this ain't his first rodeo, and even though he's got a couple losses, one to Bosch, one to Romero, those are top flight guys. And Tavares I think he's ready to bounce. I like him in this fight. I love the fact he opened 245, which I consider to be probably a fair number against a younger, less experienced man, even though Whittaker's at home. Now you can catch him minus 160. I don't like to spout off too much about favorites, but boy, there's some value in Tavares because I think he's going to get this fight to the floor, make it ugly, and grind Whittaker out.
Yeah, an impressive win against Nate Marquardt. He had won 5 in a row before losing to Romero and to Boach, and as you stated, there's no shame in that. 2 top flight guys, especially a guy like Romero. Tavares, too, I think he's one of these guys, I don't think people realize, man, he's got 11 fights in the octagon in the last 5 years. He is an experienced fighter that's fought top fighters. I think he handles Whittaker as well. Lou, there's a lot of hype about this Jake Matthews kid. Are you buying what the PR machine is selling?
Not in this fight, no. And again, just as I mentioned with Stipe, this kid Vick, the Texecutioner, is no slouch. He's going to be the much, much taller man. He's going to have a much longer reach advantage. I think you're going to see Matthews going to have to try and take this thing to the floor. If Vick can keep his distance, keep his wind, and strike at a distance, I think this could be a schooling for the young Matthews, who's definitely talented, just like Whittaker. He's young, he's talented, he's fighting in front of his home people, but he could get schooled in this fight against Vick. I like Vick.
You know what happens eventually? They build up the countrymen, but eventually they have to start fighting foreigners, right? They've used it as a feeder system with their Ultimate Fighter shows, but you got to take that next step. And Vick is another one. Doesn't get a lot of hype for a guy that's 7-0 in the UFC. Couple impressive wins. He's had some injury problems, so he's been on again, off again. But he's an impressive fighter. I got respect for that German dude, Nick Hein. And, Vick just picked him apart.
Yeah, that Hein was tough as a fire hydrant, too. That was no easy fight.
No, it isn't. All right, so before we let you go, Lou, anything else catch your eye? On this pretty deep card, actually. Only 4 cards on the main event because it's starting so late on Saturday night. But it's a stacked undercard and prelims. Anything catch your eye before we let you go?
Yeah, I really want to look for dogs. I haven't been able to spot any yet. I do think if you look down the way again, Andrew Scott is one fight that I'm drawing my attention to. I want to like Scott right now. I'm going to have to wait until we see weigh-ins, and I do a little bit more due diligence before I proclaim him. But that's a fight I'm looking at as well, Andrews and Scott. All
right, so you can follow Lou on Twitter over at Gamblou, as well as his website, gamblou.com. He's got gaming advice for all the daily players out there. Very well-versed man. Lou, it's always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Gabriel.
There's a Gamblou with us. Always enjoy kicking it with Lou. He's a regular on our radio show on Sirius XM channel 167. Every Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, we follow Corey Erdman from the Fight Network right here, who breaks down the world of boxing every week. As boxing ain't dead because Corey's on every week, right? Tune in to Sirius XM channel 167. We'll come back with our videos of the week.